Um, what if the nation or, even the company that ultimately wins the global tech race isn't the one building the most microchips?
Right, which sounds completely backwards.
Yeah, exactly. What if it's the one ignoring them entirely? Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we are tearing into a really fascinating profile of Dr. David Nghiem.
Yeah, a highly, highly accomplished tech inventor and scientist.
He really is. And in a world that is currently just hyperventilating over AI algorithms and massive data centers and these multi-billion-dollar semiconductor foundries,
Well, the spending is just out of control right
it
now.
really is. But here we have this guy with dozens of high-tech patents who firmly believes our entire definition of core technology is just, well, dangerously
It
backwards.
is a massive disruption to the conventional wisdom for sure.
Okay, let's unpack this because the central paradox here is just wild. We have a guy who spent 4 decades designing RF microchips and biomedical tech.
The master of the machine, essentially.
Right. And he says the ultimate core technology isn't a machine or a chip at all.
Right, we're constantly told that hardware and processing power, that those are the ultimate moats.
Yeah.
But Dr. Nghiem, who is intimately familiar with that exact hardware, argues that chasing the machine is just a losing game.
Because he's looking past the silicon.
Exactly. He's arguing that the only sustainable, truly irreplaceable technology on Earth is actually the human mind.
Which, I mean, the messenger here is just as intriguing as the message. When you hear someone say, like, humans are the real technology, you might expect, I don't know, a philosopher or a sociologist.
Oh, absolutely. A liberal arts professor, maybe.
Yeah. But Dr. Nghiem is a former vice dean of engineering at the University of Houston.
A heavy hitter in academia.
And industry, too. He's done stints at Qualcomm, Harris Corporation, Medtronic. His patents cover mobile chips, defense tech, biomedical devices, and RF microchips.
Which, for those unfamiliar, are the radio frequency chips that allow your devices to invisibly communicate with, like cellular networks and Wi-Fi.
So he literally knows the full life cycle of tech, from the R&D lab all the way to global commercialization.
Which is exactly why his perspective carries so much weight here. I mean, he isn't critiquing the tech industry from an armchair. He has seen the absolute bleeding edge.
And what's fascinating here is his core conclusion after 40 years in that environment.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that the life cycle of hardware is brutally short.
It really is. Like a market-leading product today is basically a dinosaur in a few years.
Exactly. And so the only true sustainable core technology of any nation is human beings. People are the ones who invent the next technology.
The article actually opens with a scene that perfectly captures this disconnect between his elite resume and his current
That's
philosophy.
a hotel scene. I love
Right.
that.
The journalist meets him at 7 in the morning at a hotel restaurant in Hanoi. And honestly, if you have a resume with Qualcomm and Medtronic on it, you kind of expect a certain stereotype.
Tailored suit, checking the stock portfolio, pitching the next AI unicorn.
Exactly, the hyper-optimized Silicon Valley tech bro. Instead, the journalist finds a guy in a simple unbuttoned shirt, no tie.
Just super grounded.
Yeah, he's just sitting there drinking coffee, texting his students across different time zones, and humming music.
And that humming isn't just an idle habit either. It ties directly into his whole worldview.
Yeah.
He actually tells the journalist, and I love this quote, "Science gives reason, but music keeps the soul."
It's a beautiful quote, but I have to push back a little here.
Sir, go for it.
It sounds very zen, very poetic, but practically speaking, why would someone who has mastered complex machines suddenly decide they don't matter as much? Like, you can't run a modern economy on a humming soul.
Well, you can't. But you also can't run an economy on yesterday's hardware.
Fair point.
Dr. Nghiem realized that technology becomes obsolete at just a blistering pace. Imagine a company spends, I don't know, $5 billion to develop a market-leading microchip.
A massive investment.
Right. But in 3 to 5 years, that chip is basically worthless. The patent is a historical footnote.
So the physical machine is inherently decaying in value from the moment it's manufactured.
Precisely. Therefore, the only true core technology, the only asset that actually appreciates and can continuously generate new value, is the human being.
The person who invents the next chip.
Exactly.
So if human minds are the actual hardware and independent thought is the operating system, then our education system is essentially the manufacturing plant for that technology.
That's a great way to look at it. And if you look at how we currently manufacture human capability, Dr. Nghiem believes our system is just completely broken.
Because it focuses on the efficient reception of knowledge, right,
Yeah.
rather than the creation of value.
Spot on. Which is why he focuses so intensely on high school students.
Yeah, in the profile, he refers to them with this traditional Vietnamese term, date, which roughly translates to disciples.
It implies a deeply personal, lifelong mentorship.
And he does this for free
Huh.
across multiple time zones. Because he believes high school, not university, is the critical window for shaping a person's mindset.
Yeah, by university, the operating system is already locked in, so to speak.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. His approach is incredibly countercultural. There is a specific anecdote in the source material about a student who was struggling academically.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
Right. I had to read this twice because it goes against everything we are taught. We have a former vice dean of engineering, an academic heavyweight, and instead of pushing this kid to get a tutor, grind through the exams, and get into a university at all costs.
Which is what everyone tells kids to do.
Exactly, secure the prestige. But no, he advises the student to go to a vocational college.
To pick a trade.
Yes, to pick a trade and become the absolute best in that specific practical field. But wait, an academic telling kids to skip the prestige of a traditional university? Isn't that risky?
Well, it sounds risky if your goal is to be a compliant employee in some middle management job.
Right.
But his philosophy isn't about training obedient employees. He wants to train people who create jobs in technology. Prestige, in his view, doesn't create commercial value. Capability does.
He makes a really stark point about Vietnam, but honestly, it applies globally.
Oh, absolutely. He says we don't lack smart people. We have millions of people who can pass rigorous tests, memorize textbooks, collect degrees.
But they can't turn that knowledge into tangible value. It's like having a hard drive filled with encyclopedias, but no processor to actually do anything with the data.
That's the exact issue. They have raw knowledge, but they lack the mechanics of value creation. Receiving knowledge is fundamentally different from creating value.
So to fix this, he founded this business in the US called TMA, the Talented Minds Agency,
Right, which operates as a tech business, but it's basically a classroom.
an incubator for youth, to teach them how to turn raw ideas into actual commercial value.
Yeah, it forces them through the entire life cycle of a product. In a normal school, you learn the physics of a sensor, write a paper, get an A.
And you're done.
Exactly. But at TMA, receiving the knowledge is just step one. You have to take that abstract idea and figure out the friction of reality. How do we source components? What if the supply chain breaks?
Who is the actual customer?
Yes. How do we patent it? How do we price it so it actually survives in a competitive market?
Wow. So they aren't just learning the code or the science, they are learning the commercial survival skills of the technology.
They're learning the alchemy of turning an abstract thought into a physical product that someone else will actually pay for. That is manufacturing human technology.
Now, if you take that TMA philosophy learning to create tangible value instead of just absorbing prestige, and you scale it up to a national strategy, it completely changes how a developing country should operate.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Because right now, the global narrative, especially in Vietnam, is just consumed by the semiconductor race.
Oh, the hype is everywhere. Every government is asking how many billions of dollars they need to build their own semiconductor factories.
Right, to avoid being crushed by the established tech giants. But Dr. Nghiem steps into that frenzy and asks a different question.
A much more sobering one. He asks, do we even have the capable human beings to run these factories yet?
But hold on, isn't it strategic suicide for a developing nation to ignore the semiconductor race? If chips are the future, isn't he essentially telling them to bow out of the most important race of our lifetime?
Well, he isn't saying bow out. He's saying you can't run a marathon if you haven't learned to walk.
Okay, that makes sense.
Throwing billions of dollars at a state-of-the-art semiconductor facility is entirely useless and economically disastrous if you don't have the domestic human capital to innovate and maintain it.
Right. If you rely on foreign experts to run the factories and foreign IP to design your chips, you haven't achieved independence.
You've just built a really expensive assembly line for someone else's core technology.
Which brings us to his pragmatic blueprint. Instead of chasing these impossible, capital-intensive races, he says focus on niche foundational tech, like antennas.
Antennas. Yeah, when you first hear it, it sounds hopelessly mundane.
Totally does. It lacks the sci-fi glamour of AI or quantum computing, but it's like wanting to build a Mars rocket before you've figured out how to forge the steel.
That's exactly it.
Dr. Nghiem is saying, let's learn how to make the best steel in the world first.
And antennas are the perfect strategic gateway. The financial barrier to entry for R&D is significantly lower. You don't need a $10 billion cleanroom foundry. And second, they are ubiquitous.
They are in literally everything.
Everything. From modern medical devices to the RFID tags used in global shipping, you cannot have a modern connected world without mastering the physics of electromagnetic waves.
This raises an important question, though.
This raises an important question about digital sovereignty.
Right. Like, how does mastering antennas actually protect a developing country from big tech monopolies?
Because in the digital age, high-quality human resources aren't just an economic bonus. They're a matter of national security and autonomy. Mastering the knowledge before mastering the tech is the only way to avoid being permanently dependent.
Ah, so if a nation builds deep domestic expertise in antennas, they own the intellectual property.
Exactly. The global giants now have to license the tech from them.
That is brilliant. And that mastery requires human brains capable of independent, original thought, which loops us perfectly back to his views on artificial intelligence.
Yes, this ties everything together.
Right now, everyone is terrified AI is going to replace us. But Dr. Ning even says that while AI can process information and even sing, it has a fatal flaw.
AI can sing beautifully, but has no soul.
Yes, a brilliant callback to his quote about music. AI cannot replace independent thinking or the human ability to ask the right questions.
It has no curiosity. It can synthesize existing data, but true innovation comes from human struggle, frustration, and connecting unrelated ideas.
But if human minds are the true engines of innovation, we have to talk about the danger of the brain drain.
Oh, it's the ultimate threat to national tech autonomy.
Right, because if brilliant minds leave for Silicon Valley, or if research stays trapped in academic labs, independence is impossible.
You're basically subsidizing the R&D for another country's economy. Cultivating the ecosystem to keep those minds is critical.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this deep dive right now? Whether you are leading a corporate team, studying for a degree, or just trying to stay relevant in an AI-dominated world, the lesson is clear.
Stop obsessing over the latest tool or software.
Exactly. The ultimate competitive advantage is your own ability to think independently, ask questions, and turn ideas into reality. You are your own core technology.
And now that leaves us with a final thought to mull over. If the ability to question and think independently is our greatest asset, we have to look closely at our current obsession with AI.
Right.
How much of our rush to automate human thought through AI is actually degrading the only true competitive advantage we have? If we automate the struggle of thinking, are we acting as malware for our own brains?
Wow. That is a heavy, provocative thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you see a headline about a new microchip or AI model, look past the machine and think about the mind you are building for yourself.